Welcome to One World Radio Station, promoting oneness of God, oneness of religion, and oneness of humanity.
Immerse yourselves in the ocean of my words, that ye may unravel its secrets and discover all the pearls of wisdom that lie hidden in its depths, that lie hidden in its depths. Immerse yourselves in the ocean of my words, that ye may unravel its secrets and discover all the pearls of wisdom that lie hidden in its depths. Immerse yourselves that lie hidden in its depths. Immerse yourselves that lie hidden in its Immerse yourselves in the ocean of my words. Immerse yourselves in the ocean of my words.
Allahu Akbar. It is such a joy for me to stand here before you on this blessed spot, which has been particularly sanctified by the footsteps of our beloved Master. I had no plans of visiting the United States at this time. I received a letter from your National Spiritual Assembly inviting me to come here to visit the various summer schools, meet the friends, and end up my visit here with you at Green Acre. The reason why this National Spiritual Assembly invited me to come was that my father, his name was Mirza Alí Nakhjavání, was among the retinue of Abdu'l-Bahá when he visited the United States, and of course here at Green Acre. As I was walking and I saw that there is a frame picture of Abdu'l-Bahá at Green Acre with three Orientals. The person who is in the center, between these three, is in the center, is my father. Yeah. So you see, I'm here on the credit card of my father. I thought it would be appropriate to start our discussion by quoting for you some of the titles and accolades mentioned by Shoghi Effendi in his writings about the American Baha'i community. I'm sure you are all familiar with these titles and accolades. A community, he wrote, which was the first to awaken to the call of the new day in the Western world. A community which was the first to champion the cause of the oppressed and to generously contribute to the alleviation of the sufferings of the needy and the persecuted among the followers of Bahá'u'lláh. A community whose members are regarded as the spiritual descendants of the dawn breakers of the heroic age. A community which was chosen to be the chief repository of the immortal tablets of Abdu'l-Bahá's divine plan, and whose members are considered as the chief executors of that mandate, as the champion builders of the divinely conceived administrative order, as the standard bearers of the all-conquering army of the Lord of Hosts, and as the torchbearers of a future divinely inspired world civilization. I tell you, I have never seen any such titles given to any other community. This is especially for you. You will have to find out why. But there is something special about these titles, and I think I must also read that. It is a warning. Maybe you won't like it. But it is from the pen of Shoghi Effendi, that same pen who gave you those titles. Same pen. He says that if the American Baha'i community will not rise to the destiny that has been ordained for it by Baha'u'lláh, if through apathy means lack of enthusiasm, if through apathy and neglect its members will not carry out their duties as they should, they will lose their spiritual primacy conferred upon them by the Blessed Beauty. This is a warning. So we shouldn't rest on our laurels and say, well, it's destiny, of course we deserve it, fine, it's very good, we're special, we'll continue to be special for the rest of the dispensation. It's not so. You could lose it through two things that Shoghi Effendi is warning us against: neglect and apathy. And that applies to everyone, not only in this hall. It affects and applies to every single American Baha'i believer. As there are some Persians among you, I'd like to just to say also a few words about the link that Shoghi Effendi draws our attention to between Iran, the cradle of the faith, and the United States, the cradle of the administrative order. In one of his letters, written early during his guardianship, Shoghi Effendi says that our oppressed and downtrodden brethren in Persia will witness the signs of their promised redemption, which, as foretold by Abdu'l-Bahá, must first be made manifest through the efforts of their brethren in that great freedom-loving Republic of the West. He also, in another letter, he points out that there is a tablet revealed by Abdu'l-Bahá while incarcerated within the walls of the prison city of Acre and addressed to the Baha'is of Khorasan, which is one of the important provinces in Iran, and mentioned by Bahá'u'lláh himself in the Kitab-i-Aqdas. This is what Abdu'l-Bahá wrote to the Baha'is of Khorasan, and it says, text which has been published and distributed in the days of Abdu'l-Bahá among the friends in Iran. And Shoghi Effendi translated this passage himself from Persian into English. Addressing the Persian believers, he says, ere long will your brethren from Europe and America journey to Persia. There they will promote to an unprecedented degree the interests of art and industry. There they will rear the institutions of true civilization, promote the development of husbandry and trade, and assist in the spread of education. Assuredly, they will come. Assuredly, they will contribute in making of the land of Iran the envy and the admiration of the peoples and nations of the world. I want to address my Persian Baha'i friends, brothers and sisters. When the Europeans and the Americans will go to Iran, my dear Persian friends, are you going to remain here? Are you not going to accompany them, to assist them, to translate for them? I want you to think about this. Abdu'l-Bahá says, assuredly they will come. Now we come to our subject today. I think the question of the devotional attitude is a very important aspect. I'm not talking about prayer as such, why we should pray and when we should pray and so on. I'm just talking about the devotional attitude, which is the very basis, the beginning of any prayer we want to offer. There is a tablet revealed by Baha'u'lláh in which he likens the prayerful attitude, prayer as a general, to a ladder. What do we do with the ladder? When we don't need it, we put it in a storeroom. But when the time comes that we have to go up to the roof, the first thing we do, we go to the storeroom and find the ladder and put it in position. This is stage one. So when I pray, it's not that I just press a button and start the reading immediately. No, I should prepare my soul. I should get my ladder and put it in position before I start climbing. Do we do this? Do I do this? Believe me, without it, it won't work. Look at what Shoghi Effendi has done with the holy places. When you go to the shrine of Baha'u'lláh, he has gardens. The same thing with the shrine of the Bab. He has gardens, terraces climbing up to the shrine of the Bab. Even in the Kitab-i-Aqdas, he says, while you are directing your steps to the Mashriq al-Askar, you should be in a prayerful attitude. You have not entered the Mashriq al-Askar. If you notice, all Mashriq al-Askars have gardens. And you direct your steps towards the Mashriq al-Askar. You have not entered yet. And he says, remember God as you are walking through the garden. This is preparation. Remember God and ask for forgiveness of your sins. This is not what Ali is telling you. This is in the Kitab-i-Aqdas. You haven't entered the shrine yet, the Mashriq al-Askar yet. Preparation. Obligatory prayer, have ablutions. Preparation. We don't just take the prayer book and stop up right away. No, prepare your soul. Before you have your obligatory prayer, you have to prepare your soul. That's a major step in prayer, whether it's obligatory or whether it is in other forms. Second thing is, now that you are placed your ladder in position, is to climb up. That's when we read the revealed word. Sentence by sentence by sentence by sentence. Whether it's a prayer by the Bab, by Bahá'u'lláh or Abdu'l-Bahá. As careful as I am to make sure that my steps are firm on the ladder, I have to be very careful as I'm reading this prayer. I should absorb the prayer. I should understand each sentence. What does it tell me? It's important. Otherwise I'll fall. Step by step by step. Now I reach the top. Means I have finished my prayer. What do? Close the book and go about my business? Why did I go up? I had a purpose. What is the purpose? Just to go there and come down? That's when conversation, our private conversation with God happens. I remember a story that the hand of the cause, William Sears, told us. He said that he gave a talk somewhere in the States about the Baha'i faith. And then he said, any questions? Hand went up. The question was, we hear that God is dead. What do you think? So he said, well, I don't know. When I was having a chat with him this morning, he was fine. What I liked about Mr. Sears' answer was the word chat. Private conversation with God. Intimate conversation with God. That's where it begins. Use your own language. We have to use our own language. Communicate. Private conversation with my Lord. Of course, I have a problem. I offer my problem. Some of us already have found the solution to the problem before we pray. And when we reach that point, please, God, give it to me. There is no conversation. It's one way. It's an order. Give it to me. And give it to me now. This doesn't sound right at all. There is a prayer revealed by Bahá'u'lláh, and I think I have the page number somewhere here that I would like to share with you. It is in our American prayer book, page 165. It begins with the words, He is the gracious, thy call hath attracted me. That's how it starts. Now, in that prayer, there is a sentence that Bahá'u'lláh has put in that prayer. Right? So that we say it. O God, I know not what profiteth me and what harmeth me. But I had the solution. And I knew that that was good for me. It is the exact opposite of what Baha'u'lláh is saying. The exact opposite. An American pilgrim went to see Abdu'l-Bahá. One of her first questions was, whatever I ask God to give me, He does not give me. Why? Abdu'l-Bahā's answer was a short sentence. It is because you insist. That's it. What does insistence mean? Insistence means that I know the answer. Insistence means I know what profits me and I know what harms me. The exact opposite of what Baha'u'lláh is saying. My dear, there is a whole, it's not only in this prayer, there is one whole tablet on this subject in Persian to the friends to say, you do not know what is good for you. You do not know what harms you. You do not know what profits you. But we think that we know. Who is speaking? The ego. It's the ego. Saying, oh, well, of course, God is so far, he doesn't know, but you, of course, know. That's wrong. That's not an attitude of prayer. During this time of intimate conversation, I should say, I don't know what is good for me, oh my Lord. I think that such and such may be okay. If it is in conformity with thy will, with thy good pleasure, give it to me. If not, I am perfectly satisfied. Everything what I want to do, I want it to be in harmony with thy good pleasure and thy will. That is proper attitude. You see, answer to prayer could be one of three things. One is, yeah, this thing is good for you, I give it to you. That's correct. Second possibility, this is good for you, but the time has not come. I will give it to you later. There is even a tablet revealed by Bahá'u'lláh in which he says, when such things happen later, he will give you something which is far better than what you had originally asked him. Two possibilities. Three possibilities. Third possibility is, this is not good for you. I'm not giving it to you. This is poison for you. You are asking for poison. How can I give it to you? But we think of only one possibility. Give it to me, and now. This is the wrong attitude. So, this, I think, is a point that I wanted to stress. When we pray, it's very clear in the writings that we should pray to Baha'u'lláh. He is the manifestation of God for today. We have to turn to Baha'u'lláh. However, there is a lot of flexibility. And Shoghi Effendi has explained all these flexibilities in his writings. He says, it is entirely in order for us to turn our hearts in prayer to Abdu'l-Bahá. However, when we do so, we should realize that he is not a manifestation of God, although he is the mystery of God. But we pray through him to Baha'u'lláh. Out of his kindness, Shoghi Effendi says that you may also turn your hearts to me, provided I'm not a manifestation of God. Through me to Baha'u'lláh. Apart from all that, we have intercession. In his tribute to the greatest holy leaf, Shoghi Effendi addresses the greatest holy leaf and calls on her to intercede on his behalf in the presence of Baha'u'lláh. He says, convey this message to him through the greatest holy leaf. In fact, one can intercede, one can call upon, for example, when I received that letter from the American NSK to come here, I turned to my father and I said, now come on, I'm going to the States because of you. If you don't help me or you find somebody to help me, how can I go? What can I do? I had a little chat with my father, believe me. I'm telling you the truth. I hope he hasn't forgotten. Intercession is an entirely correct method of turning our hearts, provided it is through, not to. To is only Baha'u'lláh. I hope this is clear. Now, I would like to share with you a tablet when we ask for prayers for forgiveness of our own shortcomings. You know, we all have weak points. And this is what Shoghi Effendi says. It's one of his letters. We all have weak points. I think this should be written in gold. If you tell me, but Ali, I'm sorry, but I have no weak points. Everything I have are strong points. When I look at others, of course I see many weak points, but I don't have. I'm sorry, I'm not going to agree with you. It's not so. Our beloved guardian says, we all have weak points. We have all shortcomings, failings. Of course we do. When we look at others, we should not look at their weak points. We should look at their strong points. When we look at ourselves, we should look at our weak points and ask for forgiveness, for help to overcome them. We quite often do the opposite. When we look at others, we only see their weak points. We look at ourselves, we only want to look at our strong points. It doesn't work. Now, so there is a tablet revealed by Bahá'u'lláh. It is in Arabic. When I read it for the first, it's only about 4 or 5 lines. But when I read it for the first time, God is my witness. I wasn't only stunned, I shook within my bones when I read this. All right. See what he says. He says, conceal. The first word is conceal. Conceal and forgive the faults of others, wherever they may be, so that God may forgive your own faults. He makes it conditional. If I don't forgive others, Baha'u'lláh tells me, you don't forgive, I will not forgive. I will cry, he's not forgiving. Why? Because I have not forgiven. There's something in my heart that does not allow me to forgive. And what's that thing? Excuse me, it is my self and passion. It is my ego, nothing else. Conceal and forgive the faults of others, wherever they may be, so that God may forgive your own faults through His grace. Oh, I wish the tablet had finished there. It's not finished. Then, there is then. Then wash away such shortcomings from your heart, so that He may wipe off your own and clothe you with His beauteous garment. All right, what is he saying here? Certainly, it's a second step. It's not the same. He's not repeating himself. 2 steps. One is to forgive. It's the usual saying in English, to forgive and forget. But we say that forgive and forget as if it's just an ordinary thing. The word forget has a lot of meaning. And Shoghi Effendi, in more than one of his letters in English, he uses forgive and forget. But here, Baha'u'lláh opens up the forget, explains what forget means. It's not just forget. How can I forget? I cannot forget. It's registered here. How can I forget? Of course, he's asking me to forget the bitterness of the experience. Sometimes somebody has been unkind to us or expressed an unkind word or impolite word. We keep this resentment in our hearts for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years. It festers, it poisons the soul. We have not forgiven. We have forgiven just by word. I have to wash away this bitterness entirely. I cannot forget because I have a brain and this has registered. All right. But I should be able to forgive and forget and wash away this bitterness in my heart about this individual. Get it out of my system. Let bygones be bygones forever. That's important. If I don't do it, Baha'u'lláh says, God will not do it. So 2 stages. Forgive. If you don't, He will not forgive. Wash away. If I don't, He will not wash away. It's going to be recorded there and remembered there. And in the hidden words, Baha'u'lláh adds, it not only recorded there, it is recorded in clear characters. This is Baha'u'lláh in the hidden words. I'm sharing these thoughts with you so that we realize how important it is that in our prayers we have the right attitude, which is acceptable in His sight. Now, what is the last part? The last part is, if you do these things, 2 stages, then not only will I wipe out everything in your records, in clear characters, I'll wash away everything, I'll wipe out everything. But then, the last words in this beautiful short tablet, I will place on your shoulders a garment which is beauteous, luminous. That will be your reward. You will carry this luminous vesture, this garb, this cloak, given to you as a gift. Now that you have washed away, this is yours.
I see you staring at me like I wasn't from here. Can it be true that the lies you've told were your fears? That I might be happy in the place where my heart belongs, but I still hope that the change will
Je suis ce père de famille, un garçon et 2 petites filles. Je suis heureux à m'accomplir, comblé car je suis Baha'i. Mais je vis dans un pays où les droits de l'homme sont salis, ignorés pour les minorités comme celle dont je fais partie. Accusé d'un crime que je n'ai pas commis, jeté au fond d'un cachot, pire que Guantanamo. Donc je le dis, qui hormis Dieu dissipe les difficultés? À quoi bon sert de lutter contre un monde déchiqueté? Donc je prie Dieu car j'ai perdu tous mes droits. Mais hamdoulillah, j'ai la foi ancrée en moi. Moi, tout ce que je voulais c'était l'unité dans la diversité pour l'éternité, voir rayonner la paix. Subhanallah, j'ai pas peur de mourir. Et si je venais à partir, Inch'Allah ce sera en martyr. Allah prends-moi à tes côtés, car je suis prêt à m'envoler, le cœur lavé vers le ciel je m'en vais.
Staring at me like I wasn't from here. Can it be true that the lies you've told were your fears? That I might be happy in the place where my heart belongs, but I still hope that the change will come.
When will my brothers be locked in chain? It's insane. They give you love, you give them pain. Aren't you ashamed? Where did they go wrong? Brother, just be strong. Sister, just hold on. God is with y'all. We gon' pray for y'all. We gon' sing for y'all. We gon' do what it takes to help y'all. Cause we know that you innocent. Know that you never do a thing that would harm the world. Unity of mankind is all that they want. So we may one day live in harmony and peace. But instead, you beat them up, lock them up with no proof, no love, no nothing. Yeah, Bahá'u'lláh is what they say where there's danger. Locked up by strangers who are full of anger. Right will stay right till the day I'm gone. Yeah, and wrong will be wrong till the day I die. God
I
bless you.
see you staring at me like I wasn't from here. Can it be true that the lies you've told were your fears? That I might be happy in the place where my heart belongs, but I still hope that the change
atrocity of such a crime happening in front of our eyes? Why do we agree with all the lies? They know they're wrong, but the truth that you hide, we would hide and let them die.
Pleasure is like genocide. Sag, bin ich frei, ich warte auf den Tag für die wahre Gerechtigkeit. Ich atme ein, schau auf den Stapel voller Briefe von all meinen Liebsten, die das gar nicht verdienen. Ich frag mich, warum das alles so kam. Warum warf sich der Schatten des Hasses über uns und überraschte uns im Schlaf? Nun vergehen die Tage, doch ich verliere nicht die Kraft, weil ich weiß, dass mein Glaube an Liebe mich stärker macht.
I see you staring at me like I wasn't from here. Oh, can it be true that the lies you told were your fears? That I might be happy in the place where my heart belongs, but I still hope that the change will come.
You're listening to the Baha'i World News Service.
Since the early 1980s, Baha'i students have been banned from pursuing higher education in Iran. A 1991 government memorandum made it formal state policy. Baha'i students must be barred from Iranian universities or expelled once it becomes known that they are Baha'is. Of course, the Baha'is in Iran have turned to the government to address the injustices they face. Yet even when officials want to help the Baha'is, they report that their hands are tied. The mandate to persecute Baha'is comes from the very top, they say. Against this backdrop of oppression, a remarkable story has unfolded over the past 3 decades. It's the story of the Baha'i Institute for Higher Education, or BIHE, as it's come to be known. 30 years ago, in an effort to respond to persecution, the Iranian Baha'i community organized an informal university program that operated in living rooms and basements throughout the country. In the early days, the instructors were Baha'i professors who had themselves been barred from working in universities because of their faith. Over the decades, thanks to advances in technology, BIHE's faculty has come to include academics from around the world. Those who offer their expertise and knowledge have witnessed firsthand the students' high ideals and commitment to the pursuit of knowledge. Since its inception, BIHE has helped educate thousands of individuals. Many have gone on to pursue their graduate studies abroad. Around 100 universities have accepted BIHE students into their programs. Equally remarkable, many of the graduates who complete their postgraduate studies abroad return to Iran to be of service to their nation. BIHE is an example of a distinctive approach the Baha'i community has adopted to respond to injustice. This approach has come to be known as constructive resilience. Diane Alai, representative of the Baha'i international community to the United Nations in Geneva, explains.
The word resilience is used more and more. I think that this has come a term that is actually very often used in discourses, particularly in political discourses. But I think the term constructive resilience is still something that has been not fully explored yet. Of course, there have been academic essays about it. But I think that this is something that we're trying to understand better as we observe particularly the response of the Baha'i community in Iran to oppression. And in fact, in a letter that was dated 23 June 2009, addressed by the Universal House of Justice to the Baha'is of Iran, the House of Justice indicates that, in fact, the Baha'is in Iran have demonstrated that the proper response to oppression is neither to succumb in resignation nor to take on the characteristics of the oppressor.
Despite efforts by the Iranian authorities to disrupt BIHE's operation by raiding hundreds of Baha'i homes and offices associated with it, confiscating study materials, and arresting and imprisoning dozens of lecturers, it has grown significantly over the past 3 decades. It relies on a variety of knowledgeable individuals both in and outside of Iran to enable youth to study a growing number of topics in the material and social sciences as well as the arts. Overall, not only has BIHE survived 30 years, it has thrived.
Baha'i youth, for now over 2 decades, almost 3 decades, have not been allowed to enter Iranian universities. The Baha'is have tried to think of how to respond to this organized impoverishment of the Baha'i community, state-organized impoverishment of the Baha'i community. And therefore, they have started to do a very, very grassroots activity, which is really to start with the university professors in Iran who were also expelled from teaching in the Iranian universities because they were Baha'is, and have these professors help the Baha'i students in the living rooms, in the kitchen of people's homes, of Baha'is' homes, to continue and pursue their higher education. And this system, of course, with also the modern technology that has improved and the access to internet and things like that has developed. And we know that we have this online university with the help of university professors around the world who are not necessarily Baha'is, but who want to combat this oppression also themselves in a very positive manner in helping these Baha'i students to be able to study. And of course, with also the help of universities around the world who then recognize the degree. Of course, that degree is still not recognized in Iran, but to help them so these students can also continue to pursue their studies abroad, having their first degree at BIHE recognized.
Studying at BIHE is not easy. Because it's not a public university, there is no funding available, and many students hold down full-time jobs. Students often have to travel across the country to go to monthly classes in major cities. Sometimes they commute from a home on one side of the city to the other in the middle of the day because these are the only spaces available to hold classes. Despite these logistical challenges, students meet high academic standards. Salim Vaillancourt is the coordinator of Education is Not a Crime, a human rights campaign that brings attention to the denial of education to the Baha'is in Iran. He talks about BIHE and how it began as a response to persecution.
From the interviews that I was very privileged to be able to conduct with Iranian Baha'is who are outside Iran now about the experience of BIHE, it is extraordinary, the capacities that it built in these people, the attitude that it fostered, and it really is a striking example of, the Education is Not a Crime campaign uses the slightly more popular term peaceful resistance, but what we mean and what we're certainly saying along with our Baha'is who work with us is that it is a form of constructive resilience, because you're showing resilience, you're not letting something push you over and dominate your life, and you're building something more out of it. So it really defines the term. These Baha'is would, for example, if there was a raid, and there have been major raids on Baha'i homes to arrest and jail teachers and students of BIHE, and there have also been perhaps smaller arrests from time to time. One of the BIHE students that I was speaking to said that when their teacher was arrested and put in jail and all the materials confiscated, they got together for class just the same. And their whiteboard hadn't been taken away. So they had a kind of an internal door in their living room that had a series of glass panels. And they would just close that door, stick a piece of paper over each glass panel, and that became their whiteboard. And they would continue studying together despite the fact that they didn't have a teacher. And this was just the attitude. It didn't seem remarkable to them in a way. They didn't make a big emotional song and dance about it. They just said, this is what we have to do, because they had a commitment to the process.
The response of the Baha'i community to oppression draws on a conviction in the oneness of humanity. It recognizes the need for coherence between the spiritual and material dimensions of life. It is based on a long-term perspective characterized by faith, patience, and perseverance. It at once calls for obedience to the law and a commitment to meet hatred and persecution with love and kindness. And ultimately, this particular posture the Baha'is have adopted has, at its very center, an emphasis on service to the welfare of one's fellow human beings. Diane Alai again.
I think today in the world, with all the very difficult events that are happening, and with the breakdown of some communities that people would not have thought that they could break down so easily, we've come to realize that living side by side is not enough. It's really to live together and know one another. And the best way to know one another is to start working for the betterment of society. It doesn't have to be society in a large concept, but just maybe your neighborhood or your street or your city, whatever it is, whatever dimension that has. But this is how people get to know one another. And I think that as the Baha'is have begun to do this in a more conscious way in order to respond to this oppression, the Iranians also have started to know about their fellow neighbors who are Baha'is, understanding that all the lies that have been spread, because also the Iranian government and the Iranian clergy have spread a lot of lies about the Baha'is. And clearly, if you don't know someone, if you have never had the opportunity to meet that person, to know what the spiritual characteristics or the moral values of this person is, well, how would you know if these are lies? So therefore, it is really by the involvement of the Baha'is in the life of the community and in the betterment of that community that has created this incredible response from the Iranian.
Since the dawn of the Baha'i faith, nearly 200 years ago, persecution of the Baha'i community in Iran has taken many forms. An open letter dated 6 September 2016 to Iran's president from the BIC draws his attention to the economic oppression faced by the Baha'is there. The letter highlights the stark contradiction between statements espoused by the Iranian government regarding economic justice, equality for all, and reducing unemployment on one hand, and the unrelenting efforts to impoverish a section of its own citizenry on the other. Diane Alai continues.
Since the beginning of the Islamic Republic, the Baha'is have not been allowed to work in the public sphere, but now also in the private sector, after trying to put pressure on Muslim employers to dismiss their Baha'i employees and trying to have businesses not renew licenses for the location of Baha'i businesses. The last act of this economic persecution by the government against the Baha'is is to close the shops that are owned on Baha'is simply because they close on Baha'i holidays. Baha'is, like any other religion, have holidays, and so the Baha'is also have 9 holidays, and it's not like they're so numerous that the shops are closed continually. It's just 9 days a year, and the Baha'is simply close their shops. They don't also advertise that their shops are closed because it's a Baha'i holiday. And this is a sign, I think, of the real intent to persecute the Baha'is with any excuse. Is that now the Iranian government has found this excuse of this shop being closed just on a Baha'i holiday that nobody knows is a holiday except the Iranian authorities, to then seal these shops and not allow the Baha'is to open. So I think that this is really widespread. You know, the Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Religion of the UN on Freedom of Religion or Belief once coined the term. He said the Baha'is are persecuted from cradle to grave because even Baha'i cemeteries are desecrated.
Even in the face of this continuous persecution, it has always been the aim of the Baha'i community of Iran to contribute to the progress of the nation. Initially, the Baha'is sought to make this intention clear to officials and other leaders in Iran. Only after their patient and persevering efforts were unable to curb the violence and unjust treatment did the international Baha'i community step in, drawing attention to this ongoing injustice, while the Iranian Baha'i community itself sought creative ways to fulfill basic functions.
The Baha'is of Iran, first and foremost, want to contribute to the advancement of Iranian society around them. And so I think that many of them decided that despite the persecutions that they face in Iran, they want to remain in that country in order to help for the advancement of the society around them.
The Baha'i response to oppression is not oppositional and ultimately strives toward higher degrees of unity. Its emphasis is not only on collective action, but on inner transformation. This strategy is a conscious one employed by the Baha'i community. Going beyond the tendency to react to oppression, war, or natural disaster with apathy and anger, the Baha'i response counters inhumanity with patience, deception with truthfulness, cruelty with goodwill, and keeps its attention on long-term, beneficial, and productive action. The Baha'i Institute for Higher Education embodies all of these elements. Salim Vayankour again.
I always find it wonderful that Maziar Bahari, who started the Education is Not a Crime campaign, he describes the Baha'i Institute for Higher Education as an educational miracle. I think it's great that it's somebody who's not a Baha'i who says that, because it acknowledges, with no bias, the fact that BA is an extraordinary achievement. And I was thinking about this with some friends recently, and we realized that perhaps it's the least known, longest running, and most successful form of peacefully answering oppression that history has seen. The example it sets for this particular Baha'i attitude to whether it's answering persecution or just, I think, answering the forces of our time, the challenging forces of our time, where we try and have an attitude and a posture and a response of constructive resilience, it is the best example that I know so far.
Despite efforts by the government in Iran to shut down BIHE, today it offers nearly 40 different programs in the arts and sciences and has served thousands of students over the course of the last 3 decades.
For more information, visit news.bahai.org.
You are listening to OWRS.
They can take my life away, but this love will will never change. They can take my rights away, but I'll grow stronger every day. They can take my life away, but this love will never change. They can take my rights away, but I'll grow stronger every day.
It's my right to live a life that's free, my right to simply be a citizen who believes in world equality. We shouldn't have to hide or feel the need to cower. Our beliefs shape who we are, they give us inner power. With our heads held high we shall walk on. With utmost love in our hearts we remain strong. They ask the question, we refuse, because it is our right to choose.
They can take my life away, but this love will never change. They can take my rights away, but I'll grow stronger every day. They can take my life away, but this love will never change. They can take my rights away, but I'll grow stronger every day.
In the silence of this courtroom, I closed my eyes and saw the future. Around the time that we heard from the prosecutors. And Your Honor, I think you've already made your choice. So to the jury, please excuse me if I rejoice. Cause it was years ago, back when I decided to save a place inside my heart where Bahá'u'lláh resided. And my family all around the world will watch and pray. So I am not alone. Will I surrender? Not today.
They can take my life away,
away.
This love will never change.
This love will never change.
They can take my rights away.
Yeah, I'll grow stronger every day.
They can take
You can take my life away.
This love will never change.
No, my love will never change.
They can take my rights away.
Yeah, I'll grow stronger every day. Yeah.
It's my right to an education, my right to the living I'm making, and yet they keep taking away from me. My material possessions have been ruined and put to pieces. My spirit remains a whole, my attachment thus decreases. Still in the state, the times have changed, they haven't changed enough. The friends must hide, obey, pray to avoid themselves handcuffed. Battles change, but sacrifice remains the same. This is my devotion that ignites my inner flame.
They can take my life away. This love will never change. Never change. They can take my rights away, but
I'll grow stronger every day.
They can take my life away, but this love will never change. They can take my rights away,
Yeah, I'll grow stronger every day. Yeah.
They can take my life away, but this love will never change.
This love will never change.
They can take my rights away,
Yeah, I'll grow stronger every day. Yeah.
They can take my life away, but this love will never change.
Thank you for tuning in. You can contact us at info@oneworldradiostation.org. Wishing you health and happiness. Bye for now.